Let's get to some headlines from across the state. Let's start with what's going on at SMU.
SMU.
So SMU this weekend.
They said
no, this week. I should say this week.
Yeah.
Over the past week.
Again, the transfer portal closed last Sunday, so
you
they
had
were
to be clear, you had to be entered into. You have to be into the transfer portal. You can't, like, right now, you couldn't jump in the transfer portal right now. It's closed.
Correct.
But if you're in, you can still be shopping. You don't have to decide by May 1st.
Yes.
Okay? But SMU picked up a pair of transfers at their at one position over the past week. Back on this was this past weekend. Kelvonte Dixon, the Texas wide receiver, has announced that he is transferring to SMU. Kelvonte Dixon, of course, the Carthage product. He had 12 catches for 176 yards and a score in his Texas career. Just never was able to find the field all that often. Get this, Pickle.
Mm-hmm.
You hear about this?
You hear about this?
Dixon is the fourth Texas Longhorn to transfer to SMU this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
4 of them. Josh Moore, another wide receiver, transferred back on
Which
January
I've always
24th.
thought was a very underrated player, but that was just me.
Yeah, big Yoakum player. Defensive back safety Chris Adamora transferred, and then David Abiara transferred less than a week ago. And so now...
I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So
Keep stealing.
there is this pipeline now from Austin to
Dallas.
the Hilltop. And SMU brings out another wide receiver. And if that were it wouldn't necessarily be a trend of them picking up a bunch of wide receivers. You know, they got Josh Moore, they got Kelvonte Dixon. But then also, they get a transfer from Mississippi State in Teddy Knox. Theodore Knox transfers from Mississippi State to SMU, 5'11", 170-pounder out of the Woodlands. You may remember him from there. He was a 4-star prospect. He was a track star. He arrives with 4 years of eligibility there in Dallas. So I want you to consider what SMU has done in the offseason. Okay, SMU has picked up Josh Moore. They've picked up Kelvonte Dixon. They've picked up Teddy Knox. Don't forget, they got Rice's best receiver, Jake Bailey, to transfer as well. Mm-hmm. So they are loading up on wide receivers and weapons for Tanner Mordecai there on the Hilltop. And so SMU just, okay, guys, we get it. You guys won a lot of wide receivers. You got them.
They're going to run the ball all the time, right? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, they're going to run the wing team.
Yep.
They're going to run the wing team. But
yeah. Okay.
Really surprising. Like, not surprising because, like, Rhett Lashley obviously has an eye for talent, and he knows, and all of these guys are. So, I mean,
I really think
Kelvonte Dixon is not it's not coming from out of state to in-state. He's coming from Texas to Texas school. But Teddy Knox is an example of a guy who is coming from out of state, coming back home to Texas.
I think it really just brings it. Like, what are you gonna do with all of, like, they're also, it's look at all these chickens, you know, like, they're all,
but here's the thing.
So many of them.
But here's the thing, okay? Jake Bailey, I believe, is a grad transfer, so he's got 1 year of eligibility left. But Kelvonte Dixon, I believe, has 2 or 3 years of eligibility. We just mentioned Teddy Knox has got
at
4.
least 2.
Like, so this is long-term planning.
This is true,
This is, in a lot of ways, you're recruiting here, you know, getting guys at the front end of their career. So, anyway, SMU cleaning up out there on the transfer portal as far as wide receivers are concerned. There are some high school football coaching changes to announce. Down in Spring has hired former Spring Decaney defensive coordinator Antonio Singleton to be their head coach. You may remember Trent Miller has gone off to Willis. Singleton replaces him. Trent Miller took Spring to 11-2. The new head coach at Spring will be Antonio Singleton. Elsewhere, let's see, Houston Madison. Houston Madison has hired Austin LBJ defensive coordinator Jason Davis.
Smart.
This is a guy who obviously helped LBJ to the 4A Division I state championship last year. And
he's dealt with nothing but D1 prospects basically in his secondary for the past 2 years.
Guy knows what he's doing around some defense. LBJ defensive coordinator Jason Davis is going to be the next head coach at Houston Madison. Down the small school ranks, Itasca has hired Marlin offensive coordinator Ricky Torres to be their head coach. Ricky Torres, of course, was the mastermind behind one of the masterminds behind one of the great turnarounds in Texas high school football.
Is that a
last year
brother
with Marlin? I
of
don't
Ruben Torres?
know.
Or I feel like it's got to be.
It feels like it probably is, but I don't want to be. Let's see.
Brother, cousin, something.
I want to make I don't want to assume just because Torres is not necessarily a.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, that's a fairly common last name, but just when you have Ricky and Ruben both starting with R's too.
Right. I would need to confirm that. It is entirely possible, but I don't want to speculate on familial ties. But in any case, task as their new head coach in Marlin offensive coordinator Ricky Torres. After leading one of the most explosive offenses in the state last year. Hardin Jefferson has made a hire. They've hired Beaumont Westbrook assistant head coach Zach Bass to be their head coach, taking over Dwayne Dubois, who was there went 1-8 there in 2021. Westbrook has been a really consistent program, and he has been kind of the right-hand man there at Westbrook for the past few seasons. And so Westbrook, or rather Hardin Jefferson, has hired Beaumont Westbrook assistant head coach Zach Bass to be their next head coach. And finally, Somerville has hired Brenham offensive coordinator Philip Roberts to be their next head coach and athletic director. He takes over Cal Netherland, who led the Jaguars to a 5-6 record last year. This was an offense that was pretty darn good last year. They went 7-4. 7-4, and the number is not overwhelming. They averaged a little over 28 points a game, but they had a stretch there where they played Connolly, Elegant, and Bastrop Cedar Creek, where they averaged something around 47 points a game. The offense can hum, and that's probably what he's bringing there to Somerville. Philip Roberts will be the next head coach there at Somerville. Finally, Pickle, I've got 3 headlines here that we can file under the same category, which is Today in Panic.
No, I feel like you got it. Today in Panic.
Today in Panic.
There you go.
So, perhaps you've heard that college football is all in a tizzy because of the transfer portal, because of NIL, because, God forbid, we give college football players any sort of agency. That would be a real crime. So, there's a few different things. One, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff met with United States senators in Washington on Thursday to ask for some legislative help around NIL. Kliavkoff put out a statement. The Pac-12 greatly appreciates the opportunity to engage in productive conversations with U.S. senators in an effort to create NIL legislation that protects our student athletes while allowing them to maximize their opportunities.
I'm going to start responding to your emails like, thanks for productive conversation.
Create NIL legislation that protects our student athletes. Sure.
Because that's what the NCAA is all about.
Sure. I'm sure that your number one priority is protecting student athletes. Mm-hmm.
History does prove that. Mm-hmm.
George, you got it, buddy. I trust you 100%. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's one This Week in Panic. Also in Today in Panic, college football coaches, I believe it's the College Football Coaches like association of some kind. Let me make sure I get this right. But there was a report out that the college football coaches, an association of them, want to put together some sort of window for transfers, okay? So what they want to do is they want to say it's the College Football Coaches Association wants to propose transfer windows in the late fall and spring to help with roster management around the transfer portal. This is Todd Berry, who's the executive director of the AFCA, the American Football Coaches Association, said Tuesday that his group would like 2 transfer windows for players to enter their names in the portal. One from the final Sunday in November until the early signing date in mid-December, and another from April 15th to May 1. Essentially, now I don't know that I necessarily have a huge issue with this. Mm-hmm. The idea being that coaches don't know when their guys might go and throw their name in the portal, and so they're constantly on high alert. If you say these are the windows in which you can enter your name into the portal, that may make the college football coaches roster management a little bit easier. So I am a little bit sympathetic to that. I don't hate it. I would want to think a little bit about it before I start taking agency away from college football players.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily hate that. But this would be one level of control that would allow them to say, you got to know, right now the only deadline is May 1st. You can do it anytime, just May 1st for the next year. So May 1st, 2022, if you wanted to transfer for the 2022 season, you would need to be in by May 1st. They're saying, let's create these two windows, one in kind of late fall, one in, I guess, late spring, that would allow you to transfer.
Adding more stuff to the fall just never seems like a good idea, but
yeah, I guess.
you know.
Finally, also today in Panic, this is coming from the Ohio State athletic director. The Ohio State athletic director, who is I want to say his name's Gene something. That sounds right.
Sure.
Gene sounds right. Yeah.
We're
Gene
just gonna
Smith.
call you Gene.
Gene.
Hey,
Gene.
Gene. Everyone knows
Smith.
Gene.
I remember him from the pandemic, like whenever there was all the stuff about the Big
yeah.
Ten. Like he was a
He's
very outspoken
vocal.
person.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith on Tuesday proposed the 10 FBS conferences operate under the umbrella of the college football playoff with their own rules and structure, while the NCAA continues to host championships for basketball and Olympic sports. Smith, who said he was, quote, just throwing ideas out, end quote,
Sure.
in a brief interview with ESPN at the Big Ten spring meetings, said the schools that offer 85 scholarships need different rules. He said they could create minimum standards for membership. Let me tell you where this is going. And this has been going this way for a while, that major college football, and by major college football, I don't just mean like the SEC, although we'll get to them in a moment. FBS football, they're going to splinter off from the NCAA. It's going to happen. They're going to say, nope, you know what? We're going to take our ball and we're going to go create our own rules over here because the NCAA is incapable of serving us in any sort of meaningful way. We want to go and create our own thing away from the NCAA. That's going to happen eventually. What's going to be really fun is when the Super League comes. Because, guys, it is coming. The Super League is coming. And the NIL is only starting to accelerate that. And what I mean by that is you are going to have, if it feels weird that Alabama and let's just say
Georgia.
Akron.
Oh, yeah. I see where you're going.
Alabama and Akron play in the same league, theoretically. That's because it is weird. And at some point, Alabama is going to sit, Alabama and the power schools in college football are going to sit up and say, boy, wouldn't it be awesome if we just, instead of, being in this league with everybody, what if we went and got our own TV deal for our own league?
It's just like when Texas and OU basically just on the Big 12. They're all already, most of them going to be in the SEC.
That's going one way. That's
Like,
going one way.
The
Ohio
Big 12
State,
went down. Conference USA went down.
Ohio State's going to be in the SEC eventually.
Yes.
Okay? USC is going to be in the SEC eventually. Or whatever that is, the power conference.
Nexus, yeah. Notre Dame will jump in there.
There are multiple splinters that are coming in college football, and you just need to prepare yourself for it. That the days of Conference USA being on the same level as, there's already, unspoken levels where we say Power 5 and Group 5,
G5.
but the days of the Conference USA being on the same level as the Big Ten or whatever, those are going away.
Yeah.
And it's going to start with this. It's going to start with the FBS splintering off from the NCAA and creating their own and taking their ball and doing their own thing. And then once they do that, then everyone's going to say, well, wait, now that we have our own league, why are we sharing money with
Vanderbilt,
Middle Tennessee?
Yeah.
Why are we doing that? Why can't we just take the money ourselves? And by the way, create our own rules that would allow us to, employ players.
Oh, yeah, because for a fact they would rather add in Ohio State and kick out Vanderbilt. Kind of one of those things. It doesn't even go all the way down to the group of 5 teams.
There are shifting sands
Sorry,
coming.
Missouri.
Yeah.
You're out.
There are shifting sands in college football that are coming, and you just need to prepare yourself for them. And when Gene Smith says these things, he's only saying these things out loud because he said these things privately for 3 years. Anyway, that's Today in Panic, and those are some headlines.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.